I am so hot. I did not move to northern Scotland to be hot like this. It's very warm indeed. So I'm going to have to apologise for the fan making a bit of a noise. But without that, I will simply keel over and nobody will get any exciting hot news from the world of consonants. Because today it is Thursday and it is 2 p.m. UK time, so it's our live stream. Wasn't last week busy and exciting? Goodness, I can't believe that within 1 hour we covered so much, but we did. This week is going to be a bit of a slower pace, I think, not least because of the weather, but because we have some, we're back to our regular agenda and we have some really exciting individual things to look at. So no big run-throughs of entire features today. We're going to be looking at new offerings from us to you. So let's have a look at our agenda for today. And our agenda looks a bit like, drumroll, whilst I sort myself out, a bit like this. Normal stuff, task of the week, reporting spotlight from our own correspondence, what's new, and a power move. But most of the things this week are new, actually. They could all be crammed into what's new and that would be entirely appropriate. We have been working really hard, the team over here, to deliver some things that have been asked for, and we also think will, progress some of the other features that we've been working so hard to produce as well. So everything in reporting, correspondence, new and power move is kind of brand new, which is very exciting. But just to add a bit of an alternative, the task of the week today features a part of the system which is actually celebrating its 10th birthday this year. And that's all thanks to treasured client UCL Press, who were pioneers of open access back in the day. And they were clients of ours in 2015. And at that time, we built open access capability within Consonance. And I just wanted to wave it in front of you for today, because it doesn't hurt to remind ourselves of some of the old features that continue to work hard on our behalves, sending out the correct data to the correct people at the correct time. So let's do that. Let's, yes, open access, lovely, task of the week. Too hot for PowerPoint. So let's go over to Consonance and have a look at the open access part of the metadata page. So let's pick a record. Let's do Cat's Ferret history. Why not? And we're going to go to the metadata page. The metadata page is where everything that goes in an Onyx message gets entered in the first place. It's also the place where everything that goes really on an advanced information sheet or into an Excel spreadsheet download, all of your metadata gets entered on the metadata page. So if you're ever casting around thinking, where do I put blah-de-blah, where do I put open access? Chances are, if it's to do with bibliographic metadata, you're in the right place here. And as a result, it's a chunky old page, plenty on here. And so rather than scrolling and using my overwarm eyes to try to find this part of the page, I am going to type to filter the page, and I am going to type the words open or whatever, and that will take me to the correct region. So this works for pretty much everything that you'll be looking for. Type in the word, and if it's on the page will filter down to help you out. So here we are. This particular work has no open access license type, and the products are not marked as free. And the page is encouraging you to add other information as relevant. Now, of course, not all works contain an element of open access. It's entirely appropriate sometimes to not put the license up there. But if you are hoping to communicate this status to the outside world, this is where to be. As ever, when you come to a region within Consonance, you are looking at the data that exists there at the moment. To edit it, you either double click on the region itself, or use your mouse to click on the edit button there, or use your tap, enter to work your way through the page, depending on your preference of navigating around the page. And this is kind of it. There's not much more to say than this sort of thing for the open access, but it's a useful little part of the system to really focus on, because I want you to always be making sure that you make yourself make the help icons here available to yourself. They are really helpful for just reminding yourself what is expected within the field that you're looking at, or what is relevant on this part of the page. And sometimes they contain links to other useful parts of this, useful sources of data as well, which may be relevant. And sure enough, here we want to maybe go and have a look at what even are these licenses. So that takes you to a page outside of the system, always useful. And this sort of tells you what's going to happen once you've added this data in as well. So it's almost like a cascade of things that you can do. If you know exactly what you're doing, by all means, fill in the page without looking. If you want a reminder, or you want to be informed as to what these fields do, then click on these help icons. And later on in this live stream, we're going to look at another way to get more information about what you're seeing on the page. And there's always raising a support ticket. Can't stress enough. We sit here waiting. I mean, we're doing stuff, but we're waiting to receive your messages so that we get a kind of a heartbeat of how you're getting on with the system that day, any problems arising, any issues that we can head off in the future. Don't hesitate to raise a ticket to say, what does free mean? What does free mean in this context of open access? So definitely, don't be a stranger. Get in touch. So, you can go through this and you can say, well, I know that there's various different types of license I can apply. I can mark it as free. I can choose different bodies. And that is all entirely relevant. The one thing I wanted to mention about what happens with free books is that if you say to mark as free, in the Onyx, rather than putting in price information and that price being 0, we put in a piece of text that says this is an unpriced item, because there is a difference between the idea of a price being 0 and the idea of it being unpriced. But 0 is not nothing. 0 is not an absence of price. 0 is the price £0, if you know what I mean. So there is that subtle difference, and that's exactly why if you raise a ticket, if you're needing that to go through to a particular recipient or not, we can make sure that they're set up and capable of receiving that slight nuance. Yes, so that is really the long and short of that region. You fill it in, and then Consonance will behave as if the work has an open access license, and then it can be communicated in Onyx to your partners. And yes, that's been working great for 10 years, and thanks to UCL for suggesting it 10 years ago as a feature. Long may it continue, and here's to the next 10 years. So congrats to them for their 10-year anniversary, they that started it all. Right, so that's... Oh, and I guess I should say that the open access information, not only does it go in Onyx, but it can also be exported into custom reports. It can be searched upon in the reporting area, and you can embed it within marketing materials as well. So, one version of the truth, isn't it? You put the data in once. The most obvious route for me is that it would go in the Onyx messages, but it can also be used, throughout your activities to make sure that information gets to the right people. Great stuff. So that's Open Access Task of the Week. Let's have a look to see what's in the reporting spotlight. So, brand new feature, very exciting, isn't it? And this, whilst we're looking in Reporting Spotlight here, this could equally be in From Your Own Correspondence, because we got a ticket from a treasured client who said, I've uploaded all of my coming soon placeholder images, and they're all the cover for hundreds, maybe thousands of products now. How do I get a list of all of the products that have got this coming soon cover attached? And we had a think, and we thought, what an interesting question, because how does anyone know that looking at an image, how do we know that it is that particular image? And there's a thing that you can do with programming, I guess, which is to take an image and kind of reduce it down to its essential data. You can turn it into a long string of characters, and we can use that then as a key for a search. So it's quite good fun. So think about this idea. You know, you've got lots and lots of coming soon images that you want to try to find and then upload the correct ones for. How do you find them? That's the business case that we are solving for right now. So let's go back to our page. Oops, going through all the different things, got a lot lined up, clearly. So we're going to go to the reporting area, and we're going to first of all sort of try and understand what one of these sets of characters looks like. And the best way to do that, I think I'll create a new report, and I'll just search for a bunch of stuff, any old thing really. Got 106 products, but you'll remember with reporting that what we do is we choose the display or action that is most relevant to the thing that we're trying to do. So we're going to go to lists, and on lists there's a few options down at the bottom here, 4 options actually. Let's focus for the moment on artwork files and product artwork files. Clicking on artwork files brings back to me all of the artwork files that exist in the system that match a title that contains A. Now, artwork files are a little bit different to product artwork files, and the clue is here. These artwork files may or may not be attached to products. If we were to go to product artwork files, it would be much more refined. The product artwork, did I click on it? The product artwork files are ones that are attached to a product, but you might therefore get a duplication because a work has more than one product, and then there may be more attachments than otherwise. But either way, it doesn't really matter. What we're doing here is noticing that there's this column called artwork file fingerprint. And fingerprint is a good word for it. It's an identification, and a unique identifier for this collection of pixels over here. So it's a way that we can search for an image. I mean, can you imagine the alternative of saying, building some incredibly heavy engine that says, find me images that some awful AI machine has decided contain a couple of cats? Ugh. Very, very often you don't need AI to do impressive things. You can use normal, cheap programming that doesn't cost the earth. And so this is our sort of condensed fingerprint representation of this cover image. So I'm going to copy that to the clipboard just to get me going, because I'm now going to use that fingerprint to find that image. So let's amend our search here. I'll type in fingerprint, and you can see these 2 new options that we've got. Content files, fingerprint. So, the clue there is that you can do this for PDFs, you can do this for EPUBs, you can do this for audio files. We're sticking to artwork files because it's a bit more visual. So we're going to do artwork files, and it says each image has a unique fingerprint calculated from the image's contents, which means you can search for images that are exactly the same by using their fingerprint value. So we're searching for these 2 cats. As I mentioned, the business use case is the image says coming soon, and you want to find all of those so that you can update them and make sure they don't go out to whoever. So yeah, so I'm amending my search. It says artwork files, image fingerprint, contains, and then it's got this long string. And I hit search, and there it is. I have used this sort of distilled down single bit of data that represents a cover image to find the cover image. So super mega thanks to our super client for coming up with the business case for this small development. It's available in your account now, so you can go and have a look at what some of your image fingerprints are, and then have a think about any other business cases that you might find useful. You know, you could find all of the placeholder images for a particular imprint. If you're updating, you know, if they still need to be coming soon or something, but you want to update them to a new logo, then that's relevant. And you know, if you've got all sorts of images that might need updating or matching, then you know you can get the fingerprint and you can use it to find identical options as well. So great fun to be had with image fingerprints and content file fingerprints. Have a wonderful time looking at all of that. Right, let's go back to our PowerPoint and see what's what on our own correspondence. So, you know, again, this is why I'm so keen to sort of encourage everyone to get in touch with us, because this is, quite frankly, this is where all our good ideas come from. You know, you're sending us messages saying, I love Consonance, wouldn't it be great if, and then more things. And this is an absolute classic. We've had 2 clients in the last, I'm going to say 6 weeks, say, oh, I really like the new marketing marketing material templates. If only we could have a block of our own free-form content that sits alongside some of the metadata. Oh, I was racking my brains thinking, gosh, how could we do this? Because when you're setting up a marketing material template, you're sort of inserting data that exists across all works. You know, there's all works will have a title and all works products will have an ISBN. And if they don't, that's fine, you omit it. But they're labelled things that can be put on different parts of the page. But briefing texts, they are very user-defined, and it's difficult to say, you know, on a template, what should ever appear. You know, your briefing text might say something like note to a typesetter, or it might say selling points for our internal sales meeting. It's free text, we can't pin it down. Anyway, so we've come up with a plan, and I shall show you how you can get the best of both worlds, briefing texts with a lot of free text and also using these templates. So let's go to a work. Let's go to Cat Heist, because I don't think Cat Heist has I can see a cat out the window performing its own heist. Should bang on the window. There's clearly some rodent is under threat at this point. So I've gone to Cat Heist, and I'm going to go to Project Management and look at Briefings. And we have got one briefing set up already, but I'm not going to spoiler things by showing you that. I'm going to add another briefing. And let's say this is the typesetter brief. Great minds. Now, I guess it's something for another day to talk about exactly how briefings work, but if you're using them, you will know that you can set up a template over in settings, and then you can copy values from that template. So if you want, every time you create a new work, if you want there to be a briefing for a typesetter, and you want there to be a briefing for the acquisitions proposal meeting, and you want particular like placeholder texts that people should fill in, brilliant, you can add those to a template and then you can copy from it there. You can also set up a completely ad hoc briefing, which is what we're doing right now. And we can include or not include products on this briefing, and that's all fine and everything. So I'm not going to add a marketing material template just yet. I'm just going to add the absolute basics. And so now we've got this typesetter brief, we can start adding in the information about what to do when we're typesetting the thing. So this is going to be on a PDF, and it's going to go off to the typesetter pool or an individual freelancer or someone, and they're going to use this as the basis for doing a good job on your work. So let's say typeface selection, and let's, this is free text, so we can say anything. We can say something like ensure typeface is legible and make sure it's set at no less than 16 point throughout. My eyes are too old for these novels that are set with 8-point font. 16 might be quite generous. We can add another briefing note. How about we say something like margins, please refer to house style guide for margins layout. Lovely. Free text, normal stuff. And left like this, we've got a default download. Lovely. We can click on that, and this is what you've been used to, I guess, for a while. We've got some metadata inserted, but you can't change it, you can't play with it, you get what you're given. So the metadata goes down the side, and then we've got your text snicked in here, sort of sitting nicely, which is super useful. But let's go a stage further now. So let's edit our briefing here, and now we can choose a marketing material template. So these are the templates that we've set up, and you can look at previous overexcited live streams where we've introduced this over the last few weeks. These are the templates that we've set up to be used as things such as advanced information sheets or catalogues or tip sheets or flyers, that sort of thing. We are embedding data onto a PDF, and then we're able to use that to produce one of the things or many multiples of the things as a batch action when you've run a search. So we've seen how super useful these things are. These are the same templates, and the ones that appear in this drop down are the templates that you've set up that pertain only to a single work. So we're not talking about multi-work here, because that would be very odd to have a multi-work flyer, for instance, and then a bunch of briefing information beneath it. I mean, by all means, prove me wrong, write in and say, actually, I think you'll find I do need that, in which case, lovely, we'll have a chat about it. But certainly for the moment, these are one work to a page, and the name of this template I'm going to select is one work to a page. And it's if we were to go back into the live stream archives, we'd see it's the one with Feline Press banner at the top, and we use it for marketing. But we're now going to use that exact same template here for this briefing. And now a new button has appeared. We've got download PDF using marketing material template. You can still download it the old way, but we can now also download it this new way. And here it is. So this is the marketing material template that we set up with the banner, with the cover, with some metadata as we determined down the side and the footer, and the title here, and it's got unknown authors, contributors. But now we've got our words set into the page. So I feel like this is a real step change in what we're going to be able to do. You might be sending materials generated from a brief out to your contributors, and you want your branding to be at the top of the page. Well, this solves that problem. You might want specific metadata to be included, but you don't want to have other sort of metadata for very good reasons. There may be proprietary information you don't want to send out to your typesetter pool. Brilliant. Define your template, and then you can include all of your information in the body of the PDF here. And that's not all, actually, because you can also include images. Now, I really like this for internal sign-off processes, because sometimes it's really nice when you're doing your acquisition meeting. You've got your P&L, which you get from plans in Consonance, But you do need to tell the story to your colleagues of why we should go ahead and publish this work. And so making a beautiful proposal document can include some wonderful writing and, you know, selling points about why we should commit to this project, but also images. And it could be screenshots, screen grabs of previous sales data or other works that you're emulating, or, you know, any sort of extra material. So let's add an image to this briefing and then see how it appears on the page. Now, where, maybe in imports, yes. All of these images I made for the demo last week, I've now got as this this resource of rather quickly done cover images, just to prove that you can import them into Consonance, but they're quite funny to see. Yes, so we've uploaded an image here, and now if we download the PDF using the marketing material template, it's embedded just below my text here. So I'm feeling like this is really, you know, a nice configurable builder to tell the story to whoever you're trying to communicate to in a beautiful way. Go out a little bit there so you can see. That image is going to fill the width of the column there. That column's width is definable within the marketing material template. You know what to do. You can go in, have a look at your templates, have a fiddle around, tailor it to be exactly how you want it to be. Let us know any shortcomings, because we can always buff and polish, but I think it's looking pretty good and pretty helpful. So have a great time adding that stuff in. Yes, very nice. Right, let us see what is on the list for next things. Lovely. What's new? What's new in a list of all things that are new? What's new is documentation search. So we've spent quite a while doing, well, did we spend quite a while? Maybe like 2 or 3 weeks doing this. And it's very pleasing because it means that you have to press fewer buttons, because nobody wants to go in the direction of pressing more buttons, do we? No. What we've done is bake the existing documentation materials into Consonance. What I'm going to do is go to my icon thing up here, account, and for a long time there's been a link here that says documentation. This link does something differently now. Let's click on it and see what happens. Exciting times. Documentation has appeared here, and this is our documentation site embedded within Consonance. It's exactly the same. It is the website, but now you don't have to go off and open up a new browser tab or like have that thing where you're straddling 2 different tabs and you're trying to line things up to see everything. No, you can now search the documentation within the sidebar here. So let's go and, I don't know, do a search for import, and that whittles down the list of documents that exist on our marketing documentation website that you're going to be able to sort of preview and then click through to. So, you know, about tables of contents appears because it's got the word importing there. Import sales appears in this list because it's got deleting imported sales. So start to use this, I think. You know, if you have a question in your mind and you think, oh, I can't bother to go and open it, blah, 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 then hit this button, find this, see if it answers your question. And if we, you know, click on one of these options, then it loads the page that you've clicked on within here. This sort of opens up quite a range of opportunities for us as well, us, the team, because now we are able to write content for the documentation website and be very sure that it's not just sort of boxed away, you know, with a mild level of difficulty for getting to it. And it means that we can embed videos as well if we wanted to. It means that we can embed other links to other services. So, you know, we can direct you at Thema, at Editor, who manage Thema, and that website will, load nicely. So we're pretty pleased to be able to just shave maybe microseconds off your day, but also just make it easier to dip into the documentation to see if there's anything that is going to unblock you in the moment. So as I was saying earlier, with these hovery icons, this is your first port of call to understand what's going on with this page here, and this part of the page, or maybe the field. But if this doesn't satisfy, then hop over here and maybe start to have a look at what there might be about briefings here. So it's really nice, and really what it means as well is if there's any materials, information that you would like us to write up and publish on the website so that you and your team can access it more easily, then we're very motivated to do that, to enhance this content, because we know that you can actually get to it and it's accessible. So have a lovely time searching the documentation. Oh, and I guess I could just let's go to the documentation website, and I can sort of show you that it's the same thing. So this is where you go now, Consonance.app, go to resources, user docs. It's the website. Am I showing that? Yeah. It's the same website, and it's the same content. You'll notice actually we've done a little bit of a rejiggle just to make sure that the signposting on this page is nicely understandable, that it marries up to the main menu that you see within the Consonance app. These words are all identical within the app and within the documentation. And there's plenty more that can be written, but you want to hit that sweet spot of it not being too overwhelming. And this is the same search. This is the search at the top of the page. So one version of the truth for documentation as well as your wonderful data as well. So have a lovely time doing that. I sort of teased, is that the word? Spoiled? Teased the idea that we're going to be looking at dark mode in the future, in the very near future. The team are hard at work on that at the moment. So when dark mode has shipped within the Consonance app, it's going to marry up with dark mode in the marketing and the documentation app as well. So rather than having your sort of senses assaulted with a mismatch, we ship the dark mode on the documentation website so that dark mode in the app wouldn't be too confronting. So watch this space, as I'm sure you will. Super. Documentation is go. What's next? That's what's new. Power move. Yes. Power move. We have heard from a treasured client who suffers with a very large spreadsheet. The very large spreadsheet is intended to help them track big orders in from their customers that need printing and shipping. So they're in the market of shipping a lot of product. They're doing very well, and that happy problem means that there's an administration challenge. So they got in touch to say, can we have a way of recording the details of the orders that we get in from our retailers in Consonance, and then we can send them to the printer, and the printer can drop ship them. So this is definitely a power move, in as much as, if you're only publishing 2 works a year, like I do with Snowbooks nowadays, and you're not troubled by a great demand for your products, then you're not going to need something as large scale as this. But when you're successful and you're doing wonderful publishing and you're getting lots and lots of orders in from lots of different people, and you're able to batch those up to send a dropship order through to the printer, this is the sort of scale of important functionality you're going to need. So this is so boiling hot new that it may not even be live yet. If it's not live right now at 2:35 on Thursday afternoon, it will be by 4 p.m. Because the team have just shipped this. We've shown it to the client. Client's excited, so we're going to go ahead and push it to production this afternoon. So enjoy using this hot off the press feature. We're going to go to the main menu and we're going to look in production, and there it is under orders, and I'm going to click on orders, and I've got one order in the system already, but we are going to add another one. So let's click on add a new order, and what does that look like? It looks like this. We've got some fields which tell us who the order is coming from, and click on your icons here, get a little sense of a bit more information about what exactly we mean by contact in this context. So this is all good, and I'm using mocked up data, of course, but we're going to be setting up the information for an order that's come from a retailer called Bestsellers, and the reference that they've sent through. Well, let's hop over to the imaginary order form that I've set up, and we can get the information from there. So this is all obviously made up, but we've got an order number here, and we'll grab that from the Excel cell, pop that back in there, lovely. Let's see if there's a delivery date. It doesn't say that there's a delivery date. I guess we're going to be looking to have that somebody phone in to book in the delivery, so we'll either leave that blank or give that a date for now. We can say what the delivery address is. We'd need to add that to the contact first of all, and any delivery instructions as well. Well, there aren't any really, but we do need a packing list, so packing list, and any notes that you need to add in for this order as well can go in there. So let's hit save, and then let's go back in and have a look at I've clicked on the wrong one, and have a look and see the order ready to take some more information. And this is the super duper snazzy bit that puts this firmly in the Power Move box. We are going to create line items on this order from ISBN 13s, and we are not going to painstakingly type in all of the information here, or in fact, in reality you get lots and lots and lots and lots of orders of line items on a particular order. No, we are not going to do that. We are going to do something much less effortful, as befits the weather of the day. I'm going to copy this entire spreadsheet. So you see I've clicked in the grey area top left on a spreadsheet, and I've selected the entire spreadsheet, and I'm going to paste into that box the contents of the spreadsheet, and I'm just going to scroll up, and you can see that all manner of nonsense is included in this big box now. And what Consonance is going to do is find the ISBN 13s if they are embedded within this big load of junk, and is going to extract them out. So let's click on create line items and watch that happening. Create line items, and there are our line items created. So it's very, very pleasing to have beautifully written lightweight code doing impressive things like this, shaving, I'm going to say, hours off people's working months, to take data from one format and get it into Consonance in whatever format is appropriate. We don't want to do a big sort of laborious upload of a spreadsheet for that. We want to copy and paste, drop it into the thing, have the computer do the hard work and walk off. So that's exactly what's happened here. We've got our ISBN 13s, of course, one version of the truth. The ISBN 13 marries up to an actual product record within Consonance. And now we can associate these line items on this order with print runs, with production runs. So let's hop back to our list here. The order quantities can vary by line item. So we've got 3,000 and then 2,000. So let's say, righty-ho, that's 3,000 units for that one. Money in, lovely. That's 2,000 units for that one. Because, we need to get the printer to print these things. So that's why we need to be a little bit careful about making sure that the order quantities are correct. On this first line here, it says choose a production run. And that's because this work, Cats Throughout History, has got more than one production run set up already. So we can't just say, oh, we've had an order in, there's one production run, let's add this quantity to that production run. No, we've got a bit of a mishmash here, so we want to be very precise. So for that reason, we're given a drop down here, and we can say, great, let's add it to that print production run. And now the total quantity for that production run has incremented by the number that we've just added. It started off as 2,000 and something, now it's 5,000 and something. If we think we've made it, and we can click through, let's right mouse, open link a new window. We can click through and have a look, and then sure enough, we've got our bestsellers copy, we've got our author copies, and we've got some other copies there. So that all makes perfect sense. But we can go back if we've made a horrible error. We can remove that if we want to, and then choose something else, do something else with it. If there's only one production run on the work, then we can be a little bit more straightforward, and we can click add, and now we can add that 2,000 units to that production run. We can add the subsequent one to the same production run, and now it's gone up to 4,000 units. So now we are all set. We have received in this chunky big order from our retailer. We have made light work of getting the detail of it into Consonance. Almost as an aside, we have done a little check to see that the ISBNs that the orderer thinks they are getting do actually exist within Consonance and are the correct products. The moment data is outside in a spreadsheet belonging to somebody else in particular, who knows what could have happened to it. So it's almost like a very subtle audit check there to check that the recipient, when they're booking in, has the correct ISBN 13 on their system as well. Because other people's software, you can never be too sure. Yes, and now we've got production runs ready to send off to printers as well. So this is a lovely feature. It's the start of a slightly longer feature, because now it's going to be really cool to be able to search and to aggregate information like this. And can you imagine setting that up and then looking to see what are all of the to-dos on the works that have these orders in this particular date range that have the role of commissioning editor, and it's me. This is a way to put things into a grid in bulk, so that you can interrogate them further down the line. So that's the next step for us. That's not done yet, but this is the very first step to be able to efficiently get your order data into the system. So massive round of applause to the team for getting that done. Massive round of applause to the client for having the good idea or the good business problem in the first place that we are happy to resolve. So that is recording order details with a particular lightness of touch into the system. So very, very good. So that brings us to the end of the content for this week on this live stream. Next week, I am going to the coast for a day to see some very interesting geology with a dear friend. So I won't be at work on Thursday, but I'm going to make sure that there's a live stream pre-recorded the previous day ready to go. I wanted to leave you though with a sort of a an inquiry to see whether the following sort of thing is of interest for future live streams. I mentioned that all of the topics today were about new things, except for one thing, and that was very old, and it's open access that was very old. And I was poking around in our records, as it were, trying to see when we first put open access into the system. And, as I said earlier, it was 2015, so 10 years ago. But as I was poking around, I was going through our code base looking for instances of, mentioning open access. And, it's like a little trip down memory lane. You sort of poke around and you enjoy looking at code from yesteryear and that sort of thing. Anyway, I wondered whether it would be at all interesting and or extremely uninteresting, so this is why you need to let me know. Wondered if it would be very interesting to have a look at some of our code sometimes. This is the sort of thing I mean. Now, this is a bit all in your face suddenly, but I don't think and I don't think I've ever shown you our code base and what our code looks like. It's not just, it's a bit mysterious, isn't it, to have a web app appear on the internet, and how are you meant to know how it appears? Well, this is it. We sit and we type into a text editor and we publish the code, and the code runs, and thus a website appears. And there's a lot more to it than that. One of the really interesting areas is the amount of testing we do. I think for every line of code we have a big chunk of tests to make sure that that code is going to run as we intend it far into the future until we change it. And this was the open access file that I came across. This is one of many, many, many test files. And every time we make a change in Consonance, all of these tests run before the code makes it out into the real world. We are really proud of this, and that's one of the reasons I wondered if this is a fascinating peek behind the curtain, or whether it's like too much information, don't care. But it's just interesting to notice the amount of storytelling we do to ourselves. This is a particular type of test that we write. They're called integration tests because they look at the sort of fully integrated feature across its entire use in the system. It's not that it's just testing that one little line of code returns one particular value if you pass it some data. This sort of test is behaving like a user, clicking around in the system, adding data and checking that what happens is what we expect it to happen. And it's really important to have tests like this because of how much work we do adding new features into the system. We're changing things all the time. And the first rule of programming is don't break the code. And how do you do that? You have a test suite, a very, very, very comprehensive, thorough and well-reasoned test suite that you run to check that you haven't caused any, we call them regressions, that we haven't accidentally broken something that we wrote in 2015. I mean, you can't hold all of that in your head, and nor would you want to. So every time we write code, we write associated tests. And that gives us the confidence and the calmness and the ability to make changes upon your request so that we can keep making the system as good as it can be. And because we're all in publishing and we love stories, I thought these sorts of tests were particularly interesting. It tells this story, here's the background to the story. Given that I'm logged in as a user of, and then, a make-believe publishing name, and that client has the following work, and the work has the title of Tales of Monkey Island, and the client has some contacts. They're an organisation, and there's one called the Scum Bar and there's one called Monkey Industries. And then here's our first scenario. And the scenario considers the situation when the work has minimal open access information and the client does not use GPRC. GPRC in this sense is guaranteed peer review content, which we needed to assert for one particular client over on the continent. Hello, you know who you are. So here's our first test. Given the client is configured to not use GPRC, when I visit the editable metadata page for Tales of Monkey Island, then I should see the following open access details. And this is the text that we would see on the page. And I should see the following call to action in the open access page region. And then this is the information that we saw earlier, add open access funding bodies and all of that. So, nothing complicated, but as ever in publishing, there's just a lot of it. And the bit of the page that I'm on here, this is the file list over on the left-hand side here. These are the integration tests just for the metadata page. These are the integration tests for that wider metadata area. Then all of these individual folders sort of contain vast numbers of extra. So these are all of the contract page tests. It is a lot of tests, and it's an investment from us in terms of writing these tests and also running them every time we ship code to the internet. It's our way of being able to be very confident that we are delivering a very high quality product. It's also, in a way, we're walking in our own users' shoes. I mean, Consonance is unique in that we run publishing companies anyway, so we are using our own software all the time. But it's still really useful to write out the stories that you're doing as you sit down and you work through the system, and it winkles out all sorts of edge cases where we might think, well, let's scroll down to, let's go into sales rights here, because sometimes sales rights can be quite complex. We check for the happy path, and we check for the unhappy path as well. What happens when somebody puts in invalid data? What do we expect to happen? We want an error to be thrown, and we want you to be told, this can't be specified if the region is world. So yes, so all sorts of very interesting tests that we write, and I can hear a little cat behind me, and we write all of these tests so that we can have a nice, calm, quiet life. And we're not beset by cats the whole time, trampling on our code. Isn't that right, Rose? I'm amazed he hasn't made it in for earlier live streams so far, but here he is. You've always wanted to be famous, haven't you? Yes. So let us know, let me and Rosie know if you would like to see a few more peeks behind the curtain. Always interesting, I think, to see how things are made, and it might give you insights and ideas for how we can develop things in the future for you. So let's get out of this very hot room with this very hot cat and go and have another lovely week. I will see you next Thursday, but it will be a little bit recorded. So let us know what you would like us to talk about, if anything new. We've got ever more new things coming down the line. And then I'll see you again the following week. So I hope where you are, it is cool enough. Poor Rosie is, very keen for the weather to break. Far too much fur. He'll be all right though. We'll go and sit in the garden now. Right. Thanks very much for watching. Don't be a stranger. Stay touch. Oh, and like and subscribe. I keep forgetting to urge you to, but it does help enormously, because then we get more reach, and people who might want to know about Rosie and code and open access will be able to find us ever more easily. So great. Right, have a good one. Take it easy. Bye. Say bye, Rose.